the African American community. The Democratic Party has taken the votes of African Americans for granted. They've just assumed they'll get your support and done nothing in return for it. They've taken advantage of the African American citizen.
Donald Trump staying on message and railing against the Democratic Party, harshly criticizing their impact on the African American community. Dr. Aveda King is the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She is here with me. She is a Fox News contributor as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. What's your reaction
to that? Thank you for this opportunity. I listened very carefully to everything that Mr. Trump has said in the last 72 hours or so, and I fully agree with so many things that he's saying. I believe he has taken a page from the book of my daddy, Reverend A.D. King, my uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., looking at the climate, the people, and really being concerned about what's happening in every community across America. In Milwaukee, he properly addressed the truth that the citizens, the people who live in the communities that are being burned and looted and attacked, have to be concerned about their own homes, their own safety. I remember saying in every incident, if any of the young men who were shot had been at school or at work, we would have had different outcomes. And so I grieve with the families, I grieve for their deaths, but I believe if we fix this flawed system, we're going to have fewer deaths and a happier, more blessed America.
There's, some points that we've heard this season from people like Ben Carson, from Sheriff Clark, heard it in our own building from Charles Payne, this idea that the way the system is set up in a lot of urban centers, where there is a lot of policy that promotes giveaways, that is a form of subjugation rather than empowering people to go out and do for themselves. What do you think of that line of thinking?
Charles and I have had very good discussions, Charles Payne and I, about entitlement versus empowerment.
Yeah.
And if the people are empowered, Ben Carson, Herman Cain, many of us, you will hear us say, we are, James Brown, I don't know if it's appropriate to name his song, but he says, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open up the door and I'll get it myself. So we're looking for opportunity rather than entitlement, empowerment, rather than giveaways. And I believe that if any of the young men who were shot had had those types of opportunities, the flawed system would not be there and we'd have different outcomes and less grief.
So what does that look like in terms of policy? How do you achieve that? I mean, what are some examples you think?
As we put America back to work, as we get better education in our school systems, as we empower families and even churches to exercise our constitutional rights and help to make the decisions for our country, America does need to come first. I think it's very true. Before you can help someone else outside of the borders, you have to fix the flawed system. The system is not necessarily broken, it's working in a bad way, but we need to correct the flaws. And I think as we do that, we're going to have a more blessed and a happier America.
What do you mean by empowering churches within the community to make more decisions or do more things? What is that?
Well, the church in the last few decades has been muzzled somewhat, especially in the last two political cycles with the presidential campaigns, and there's been an effort to quiet the church down. Stay in your four walls. Don't speak outside of your boundaries. Don't really help the people. So I believe if the churches are empowered to speak, I believe if the communities, the people in the business arena, if they're allowed to bring the companies back to America and to give jobs back to Americans with a better minimum wage, but with other empowering portions of the system in place to help the community, we're going to have fewer riots, fewer deaths, much less grief. And I believe that once we do this, we're going to have a better America.
I'm voting for you. I'm writing you in for president. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, goodness.
Those were some great ideas. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ashley.
Thank you.
Well, another